Let's talk about how you compare a taxable bond with a tax-free municipal bond. And perhaps the easiest way to see this is through an example. So let's assume that the taxable rate is equal to 8%. And suppose the municipal rate equals 6%. Well, how do you compare the two? This is a lower interest rate, and of course, if there were no tax on this one, this would be better, assuming that they have the same level of risk. But you have to pay tax. So let's say the tax rate equals 40%. How do we figure out how much you get to keep? What's your after-tax return here, or after-tax yield? Well, your after-tax yield is going to equal the taxable rate times 1 minus the tax rate. Think about it. If you're in the 40% tax rate, what's true? Every dollar you make, you give Uncle Sam 40 cents in taxes. So you get to keep 60%. So your after-tax yield will really be 60% of whatever your taxable rate is. Okay, 1 minus the tax rate. So let's plug in those numbers and let's see what we get. So if we plug in, we have an 8% taxable rate times 1 minus 0.4. So that's going to be, let me call up my financial calculator here. And we're going to have 8 times 0.6. And we get an after-tax rate of 4.8%. So clearly in this case, the municipal tax-free bond is better than the taxable bond. Now, one question we might ask ourselves is, who should buy the taxable bond and who should buy the municipal bond? What we're really asking ourselves is, at what tax rate are the two returns equal? So how can we do that? Let's set these two equal to each other. So we would write this down. The taxable rate times 1 minus the tax rate should equal the tax-free rate. And we can find out what's the tax rate that determines whether you should buy the municipal bond or the taxable bond. So let's substitute in here. We have 8% times 1 minus the tax rate equals the tax-free rate, which we said was 6%. Let's divide both sides by 8%. Okay, so this will cancel. So we have 6 over 8 here. And so we have 1 minus the tax rate equals 6 over 8, which is what, 3 over 4 is 0.75. Subtract, let's subtract 0.75 from both sides and add t to both sides. Well, let me do it one step at a time. So let's add t to both sides. So plus t. So I'm going to get 1 equals 0.75 plus t. And I'm just going to rearrange the terms here. I'm going to subtract 0.75 from both sides of the equation, and so t equals 1 minus 0.75, which is equal to 0.25. So the 25% tax rate is where you would be indifferent between the taxable bond and the tax-free bond. If your tax rate is above 0.25, so if your rate is greater than 0.25, buy the tax-free bond. And if it's less than that, buy the taxable bond and just pay the tax. So it's quite useful to figure out where you'd be indifferent, and then you would know whether you should buy the taxable bond or the tax-free bond.